Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite Dark Sorcerer here. And today I'd like to talk to you about spiritual contact, basically. True or false perceptions. And this is some of the things that's come my way as well. How do I know if it's real? How do I know if it's transpiring? Type thing. Others have said, well, I've done this, I've utilized that. Number one, I don't condone drugs within of like say shrooms or any other hallucinogen within spiritual context because it does give off a state of falsicity. It's a mind altering drug. Okay. Now, I thought I would give you a moment to see kind of like what I see when I do rituals. In this manner, depends on how froggy I am. I'll go in, I'll call the quarters, the northeast, west, and south towers, or I don't because normally I don't close them because I have no need to, and I don't feel it. I feel it to be disrespectful to them, to the spirits that I'm working with, and then I would perceive through the lighting of the candles, the incense, the charcoal for the burn pot, stuff like that. I would invoke the necessary spirits to which type of rite or ritual that I'm doing. If it's a simple meditation, I just simply open up my altar room, my inner sanctum, to all the demonic, to the forgotten realms. Okay? This basically shows respect and trust to them, that I trust them that much to just come and go as they please. A lot of times when I go in, I don't get nothing. So I sit there in front of the altar with everything up and running, and I'll just sit there and meditate. I'll do some mantras. I'll count back from 10 to 0, 14 to 0. I'll astral project, you know, whatever comes to mind during that ritual to see what's going on. Why is there no contact? Did I not do something correctly? Or was it something that maybe you just had nothing to say to me? Okay. These are things that you basically go through, in your state of mind while you're in there, getting yourself prepared mentally, emotionally, and physically into a state of meditation, especially if you're getting ready to invoke or evoke a demon, a spirit of some sort. Now, you take last night for an example. I went in a little after midnight, the hours of meridian, and I lit all the candles, the incense, the charcoal. I invited Satan, Asmodeus, Beelzebub, Astaroth, and all of the ranked and unranked demons of the hells and forgotten realms. I even invited the Blighten to just come on in and join me. While I was sitting there, I had my cell phone off to the side, and it was funny. It was kind of interesting because I like bringing my phone in there because of the fact that I get to turn on YouTube. Okay, just the YouTube channel, and a lot of times I'll go to the nature channel because of the fact that you can find things from heavy rain to thunderstorm sound effects. Just basic nature sounds. Okay, and trust me, if you live in the city, you're not going to get these types of sounds where you are unless you live just on the outskirts of the city where you'll have animal contact. You may see squirrels or chipmunks. You may see a skunk from time to time, but let's face it, you're not going to see things like deer. You're not going to see things like moose unless a moose gets, spooked and runs downtown, you know, which, to be fair, has been known to happen. Okay. Hey, Waldo. So, anyways, I was sitting there and nothing, I didn't feel a connection. I really did not feel a connection. I was sitting there in my chair, in Indian style, in the middle of the circle of empowerment, you know, I'm chanting, I'm using a mantra, the whispers, nothing. I'm listening to the sound, I'm completely relaxed, or at least to the point where I'm mostly relaxed, I should say. And I decided, you know what? Screw this, you know? So I reached over and I pulled out my blindfold and I decided to blindfold myself. And it was one sometimes that is needed because a lot of times your mind is in such a state where you're so codependent on sight, the physical sight, that you're not relying on your spiritual insights, your trust within the spirits, and most importantly, your third eye. Okay. So I put the blindfold on. I went back to listening to the music, the sounds of this thunderstorm, the downpour of the rain, started doing the relaxation, doing the mantra, and it felt like all of a sudden it felt just like you were falling, like you took a plunge off a deck, just not hitting the bottom though. But yet in my mind's eye, I could see almost like a black hole effect with a spiral. It felt just like you were being sucked in, like you were being drugged into this void, this nexus. And then I started seeing images flowing through my mind. And a lot of times it's not uncommon because your mind is trying to rationalize what it's not perceiving. It could be random thoughts. It could be things that took place or transpired during the day. Things, for future type things that you got to do. So it's really not uncommon. And the point is to work on your breathing and to concentrate on your breathing and what you're doing in front of you. Okay. Quieting your mind and allowing these spirits to manifest themselves either in you or around you, okay, to open up those doors. A lot of times, in some cases, you have the occasional state of possession, and possessions are not uncommon, but it does come down to how willing you are as the practitioner to do it, so, and to allow it, and for how long. So I was sitting there blindfolded, felt like I was going into this expanse of darkness, pure darkness, almost like you're just taking that plunge and just following. And it was interesting because all of a sudden I started seeing this image. Almost like how you draw a diamond, like a child would draw a diamond. Something that simplistic, like drawing two triangles, okay? With the points at 6 and noon, okay? Noon and 6. And then on top of that, you had an X, okay? Number one, this diamond was white. This means purity, okay? A lot of times, if you follow things like S. Connolly Reeser's book, the complete works, the complete book of demonolatry, or the grimoire, the complete book of demonolatry. Okay, just to name a couple. She utilizes candle colors in there, and their symbolizations. Like white would resemble purity. Blue would represent the celestial, which means you're dealing with an angel of some sort, most likely a fallen angel. And then black obviously would be demonic or the negative, the expanse, the void, the nexus, stuff like that. So the diamond was white and the X was like this, but from my perception, my view, it was clamped down, kind of like what's on that middle ring right there, holding that gem in place. Okay? It literally showed the ends curled over that diamond. Okay? And then on top of that, a beetle. Not just any beetle. Those of you who have studied insects and their lore inside of ritualistic usage, that of spiritual or religious perceptions, knows what a scarab beetle is. Okay, you've most likely studied ants. You most likely studied, snakes and all that other stuff. For animals, not just insects. And their significance as familiars, even spiritually possessed familiars. Okay, but in this case, it was a scarab beetle. Okay, and it was, from my perception, was facing to my upper left on that in that image. So you had that diamond with that X placed over it, and then that scarab beetle facing just like this, diagonal. Okay, now what does this mean, and what does it translate into? Okay, you can sit there and you can try to rationalize what you're viewing. This is called remote viewing, by the way, where you're able to recall, you're able to transgress time and space and literally spend time in this state of mind frame. Okay? You get to replay it over and over again. In some cases, depending on how good you are at it. Me, kind of 50-50. But still, it's there. Now, I did some research afterwards, after I came out, after about an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of meditating and communing. And I found out that scarab beetles come in many sizes, and they were used for different properties, okay, different things, from amulets to talismans. They were used for protection, and they were used for good luck. But more so in a religious setting, they were utilized by priests as trusted advisors. Those who lack the knowledge but are very loyal and trusted, and they were given this knowledge. And so, I mean, that was pretty cool. But then as you're reading down through all these links through Google, and you're researching in books, the meaning behind a scarab beetle and how it relates to what we do as sorcerers and sorceresses. We find out that, I found out that not only was the scarab beetle associated with the Book of the, I found something out that was kind of interesting. It's also, these beetles are also associated with necromancy and voodoo. That's right, voodoo. Out of all religious perceptions, why voodoo? Why voodoo? Well, that's the thing I want to know. That's something that I want to delve into, because I've studied, I've read numerous books on voodoo. I've practiced voodoo. You know, I work with, I've called on Papa Legba and Baron Samedi, Papa Nabo, and a few other spirits. But the funny thing is I never knew scarab beetles were associated with voodoo. But then again, if you think about it, voodoo doesn't just relate here in the United States. It doesn't just relate in Cuba or Haiti or the Dominican Republic. No, I mean, voodoo goes all the way back into Africa. Okay. Hey, Shelley. So, looking at voodoo from this perception, there's a lot that we're not privy to when it comes to that religious practice. Okay. The fact that they are associated with the Book of the Dead, which is Egyptian, by the way, not just Tibetan, but also Egyptian. Scarab beetles were used in human sacrificing rites. They were used in many different rites, from blessings to consecrations to funerary rites. So, I mean, their primary goal, some of them were like the bigger ones were carnivores. They ate meat, but the lesser ones were more herbivores. They ate plants. Or they ate. You take the dung beetle for an example. I mean, this particular the scarab beetle literally will take the dung and roll it across the desert, across the floor, and into their hive, so that the queen can lay her eggs in it. Okay, so this is one perception that is kind of clear when it comes to it, but if we follow Hollywood produced films, the scarab beetles were utilized in human sacrifices, to create accursed objects like, say, the mummy. If and it ate him alive, right? So, but going back in mythology, it says nothing about a religious context outside of the priesthood. Now, in the only priesthood that I'm aware of currently within the Egyptian mythology would be that of Anubis. Now, if you go into Greek, you also have Artemis, the cult of Artemis, that had priesthoods. So, I mean, when you go into this context, he's not only the guardian of the graveyard, but he's the protector of the grave. He's the embalmer. Okay, he's that jackal-headed dog figure that we see standing on the altar in front of a portal, a vortex, leading to either the celestial or to the hells. Okay, so voodoo has different powders, they have different concoctions, but they also use animal sacrifice as well. So the question is, where does the dung, where does this scarab beetle fit into that? How does it relate to necromancy? Now, I believe something is coming across in this manner because of the face, the skull, the white skull, with that grayish figure going down through the shades, so to speak. Something is there trying to communicate. The question is what? But I also found out that this really kicked in when I started working with these three new spirits, these three new, let's just call them lords and ladies. Since then, it was like this heightened visual acuity took place. So the question is, what's coming across, and what do scarab beetles have to do with a diamond and an X? And if you think about the X, it's just like those machines that pick up scrap metal. They clamp down and they raise. Except for you got 4 points instead of 6 or 9. Like you'd see in a video game. One of those video arcade things that you can get toys and stuff out of. A bin. At this time, I really don't know what that means, but I'm willing to find out. So, I'll go back in tonight and do more when I get home from work. And I'll definitely continue my studies into the scarab beetle and how they relate to both voodoo or voodoo and that of necromancy. I'm very eager to find this one out. But you have to understand that there's also false perceptions is where you're willing to have a vision you to the point where you think your mind plays tricks on you. You think that every shadow is a demon or a spirit. This is a false vision. This is a false insight. And I've seen this happen a few times in my career from people who have come to me. But it is interesting how the mind plays works. Some people will recommend drugs, others will recommend some kind of concoction utilizing plants like henbane or hellebore, you know, say yarrow, white oriolander, or yew, okay? Stuff like that, concoctions mixed out of these things. And then on top of that, you got your own blood that you can mix in with it, and teas and brews and stuff like that. Some even have incense that can help you transgress into this stuff. Now, personally, I don't. Others, I've had people in the past come to me and say, "Well, I use shrooms." Well, number one, you're not getting anywhere with that because you're relying more on a physical hallucinogen. This gives off false waves within the brain. It gives off a false brain state of visualization because you're going to be seeing everything and anything under the moon, especially with shrooms. Okay, those of you who have actually used shrooms, you know what I'm talking about. Now, yes, I'm aware that shamans use them. A lot of the Santeria and Brujeria practices use them. They also use, even shamans use a lot of herbalism too, just like black magicians, sorcerers, and witches, and other practitioners, including necromancers. But do you need them all the time, or are you willing to work at it and build up that psychic development? There's a lot of sources out there that will help you into not only to gain a better understanding and an easier bridge to cross the veil. But yes, some of us do need that little kick. So I mean a little proportion, like an equal parts of something, like one of these concoctions, like a bruise will help. Tea will help. Catnip tea will help. And speaking of cats, that's my familiar. Say hi, Bella. Don't you lay up there and look cute. She's like, yeah, whatever, Dad. But yeah, meditation. The more you meditate, the more you work with them. You're gonna build up that relationship, and the more you work with them, the more you call them, the more it's gonna be easier to make contact with them. But until you get to that point, it's best to play the 50-50 game with the visions or whatever you see or hear. They have infinite methods of contacting you. I can tell you point blank that I've been in the ritual room where one's spoken right behind my left ear and scared the crap right out of me because you're not expecting it and telling you what to do. I've had candle flames go not just one candle flame going nuts when there's no airflow in my inner sanctum. You know, I've seen incense smoke do weird things. I've seen visual faces within crystal balls or black onyx balls, scrying mirrors. I've used those. I've even used those little ESP type devices that paranormal investigators use, and you see that paranormal activity moving around, and when you begin, it's spectacular. But when you literally feel that change, that current, just the atmosphere completely changing, you know something is there. You know without a shadow of a doubt. And when you get into the visual states, a lot of times it's that visual, but you got to remember, don't use your visual eyes, your human eyes. Use your spiritual eyes and go beyond that. Okay, that's why I recommend practicing with, say, for example, the void meditation, or utilize some kind of disability, like, say, blindfolding yourself and allowing your other senses to heighten and take over. Trust me, that freaks out your coworkers. It really does. When you can be far away from any speaker and yet you can sit there and type in exactly what an order is because you were just listening while everybody else is yapping. And they're like, what do they want? It's like right there. I've been told I got very good hearing because of that. So yeah, I would recommend for you, for those of you who are new into the arts or wanting to develop your psychic awareness, especially through visual aid or mental acuity, utilize some form of disability. Okay, and what I mean by disability is, for, like, say, 90 days, like when you go in to do ritual, blindfold yourself. Okay, just blindfold yourself. Okay, other times, for another, say, 90 days after that, wear earplugs. Okay, so you can block out everything. Okay, learn to feel, see, and hear each thing, and just kind of just go with it. Try keeping your eyes closed and just feeling around, feeling the molecules of the air touching your skin. Are you feeling that heat, or are you feeling that cold spots? This is stuff that you can literally learn to identify just by utilizing what I call, a disability state. Okay. Meditation definitely helps. Mantras definitely help. Learning to astral project really does help, and there's a lot of good things for that. I mean, I recommend the second and third book by Christopher Penziak. Okay, the number two book in this was The Inner Temple of Witchcraft. Okay, it will definitely tell you everything you need to know about psychic development, and it will give you a lot of information and a few well placed exercises to perform. In the third book, The Temple of Shamanic Witchcraft, it gives you a lot of states about the mind, how witchcraft was perceived and done, and there are different perceptions of it, from, like, say, Alexandria to say, for example, different types of paganism, white witchcraft, Christian witchcraft, whatever. But the way he breaks down the mind states so that you have a better understanding and clarity of understanding within those mind states. That is something I'd like you to pay attention to, because when you utilize his exercises within this third book, it is literally like you're right there in front of what he's asking you to see, what he is asking you to visualize. Okay? So visualization and perception really do go hand in hand. It's like seeing a net in front of you, and you have to push your way through that net. And then you're standing in a forest in front of a big tree, and at the foot of that tree, you have a hole, so you visualize yourself going in there. And then you have a spiral, staircase, and at the top is an altar, your altar, that's in your altar room. But yet, this is at the top of a tree in the astral realm. Okay, and then you just do it in reverse, and this is done by counting. It's done by visualizing and concentration on your breathing. So there's a lot of factors that do play into this, not just trying to visualize something or letting something take shape in your mind's eye. When they talk, you will know. Trust me on that. When they speak, You will listen because you will be taken by surprise. Last night, or I should say early this morning, was one of those times I got caught with a lack of information because I didn't know what this meant. So I sent this, I typed it out. I sent the research that I had done early this morning after I got out of my ritual chamber to my elders. Okay? To my elders. And I said, "What does this mean?" I honestly have no idea. I didn't even know that scarab beetles were associated with voodoo and necromancy, but it makes sense because the darker aspects that deal with, even in the lighter aspects, deal with death. And scarab beetles are associated with funerary rites, and not just blessings, cursing, protection and stuff like that. So, what does it all mean when you put it together? This is something that caught me by surprise, and they will do that. Sometimes it's in your face, like, hey, this is what you need to do. Other times they'll show you things and it's like, oh, great, now I got to do more research. I got to delve into the books. I got to delve into Google, that blasted machine called a computer. you know, you got to fight with that. And, um, and that's with all the other distractions that's going on, like family life or work. Like today, I've got to be to work in about 30 minutes. So you see my point. All right. So really take a time to do the research into what you're seeing. Break it down if you have to, and then put them together and try to figure out what is the overall meaning of it. If it aligns with something that you see through multiple links on Google or in multiple different grimoires, guess what? Then there's a reason for it. Now all you have to do is figure out what that reason is. Why are they showing it to you? What are they trying to tell you? Is it something you're lacking, or is it something that you're doing right? Is it time for you to take that next step into your self evolution? That state of apotheosis. Okay? This is stuff that you need to look at. This is stuff that you got to perceive in an overall. Okay? With that said, I hope this has been intellectual. I hope it's been enlightening, and I hope that you take the time to get the resources that I've mentioned here today. And most importantly, to perform some of these exercises. Learn to build up the psychic awareness. All right? You're welcome, Shelley. And until next time, I want to thank Waldo and Shelley for joining me here this morning. And for those of you who will come on after the fact, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch the video. And until next time, I'm out.